Hey guys, welcome to Foodies Live, streaming live from the SubZero showroom in Scottsdale, Arizona. And today I'm joined by the awesome Chef Laura. She's going to help out with some questions. And we're also joined in the kitchen by Chef Dennis Frazier of Cater Phoenix, and he's going to demonstrate a few molecular gastronomy techniques and kind of show you how you can recreate the same things at home. So with that, I'll kick it over to Chef Dennis. And also, if you have questions, please post them in the chat room or on Twitter, and we'll get them answered right away.
Hey everyone, I'm Dennis Frazier. Welcome to Foodies Live. It's great to be back again. As you know, my specialty is hors d'oeuvres and kind of modern cuisine. That's what I do at my company, Cater Phoenix. Let's talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. Some chefs get hung up on the term molecular gastronomy. Some like to call it modern cuisine. Some like to call it avant-garde cooking. The way I look at it, the media kind of coined the phrase molecular gastronomy. That's what they run with. Anytime they're going to describe this style of cooking, that's what they're going to refer to it as. So I don't have too big of a problem with it. I prefer to call it modern cuisine, but you know, when in Rome, you got to go with it because that's what they're calling it anyways. It was actually a scientist that coined the phrase molecular gastronomy. I think that's a lot of reason why chefs can have a problem with it. The one thing I will tell you though is if you ever hear of a person refer to them as a molecular gastronomist, I would run, because you're not going to get a good meal. You're going to get a lot of sizzle and a lot of ooh and ah, but you're not going to get a really good meal. So I'm a proud chef, but these modern techniques are a great way to kind of work into neat little hors d'oeuvres. We're going to show you some cool techniques today. The first one that we're going to do today is we're going to do a fig caviar. And I'm going to show you make a little hors d'oeuvre with it, and we're going to talk to you about the generalness of it and actually how simple it can be. So we're going to go ahead and get started with that today. Now, with these recipes, you have to make them up ahead of time. They need to sit, they need to rest, because we have to incorporate air into them. We're going to be using two products today. One is sodium alginate, and the other one is calcium lactate. I know it sounds fancy, it sounds scary, but it's not. Sodium alginate is sodium derived from seaweed or algae. That's where the alginate comes from. And calcium lactate is calcium derived from dairy. That's where the lactate comes from. So we're actually using food products just to transform food into other things. The bottom line is calcium and sodium don't play nice together, and when they get into each other's presence, they tend to form a gel, a skin, that's completely edible, but allows you to encapsulate liquids inside of a solid. And it's a great little technique that was invented by Fran Aldry at El Bulli, I believe in 2003. So that's how new these techniques are. I mean, ever since man, learned how to create fire, we realized that cooked food tastes better. But even now in this kind of renaissance of this new style of cooking, we're actually getting into some new techniques, and it's growing in popularity because the gimmick is worn off. We're now actually finding ways to use it, where it's really kind of a neat little addition to pretty much any menu. Okay, so what we have here, and this is going to be our fig syrup, and this is what we made yesterday because we had to let it rest and get the air bubbles out of it. But very simply, you want to use, you're basically making a fig simple syrup. And we all know simple syrup equal parts sugar and water by weight. So what we've got here is 1,000 grams of fig jam, store-bought fig jam. Again, you don't have to process and puree your own figs. Go buy a nice quality jam, takes the guesswork out. 1,000 grams of that, and you'll have the grams written right on the jar along with usually the fluid ounces or the weight. 1,000 grams equal parts, 1,000 grams of purified water, which is another interesting point. Our water's so bad, we have so much calcium in it, and we're trying to do a technique with calcium and sodium. You have to use either purified or distilled water. I just buy one of the big jugs of it, it's 80 cents or whatever. It's plenty of water to do this, but it's got to be purified water. So we've got equal parts of purified water and fig jam that we've buzzed up with a hand mixer. You could do it in a blender. You could probably even do it in a food processor. And then what we do for this one, we add 2.5% of sodium alginate, which is the first agent that we're using. That's the sodium derived from the seaweed. We blend it up, and we got to let it rest overnight. So that's what we've gotten here. And don't worry if you've missed these ratios. We archive it, so you can just go back and you can watch it over and over again and write these down. But this is our fig honey, or pardon me, our fig jam with our purified water and our sodium alginate in it. The next thing that we have over here, this is a bath.
Chef,
Yeah.
Quick question for you.
Yeah.
Sodium alginate?
Yeah.
Is that hard to find?
No, it's not. Actually, it's a good question. We find it on the internet through Amazon.
Okay.
But there's a lot of other sites you can go to as well. I have an Amazon account. But they're all pretty
Amazon.
readily available on the internet. I have not been able to, as big of a city as Phoenix is, I have not been able to source them locally yet.
Okay.
But I just buy them, and we get containers of them for the catering company. And one of those containers will last us 6 months. We use it almost every single day. So for the home cook or the home gourmet, one of those will last you half your life. There's so much of it. As long as you keep it dry, it won't. Nothing will happen to it. Keep it dry in a cool, dry place.
So your pantry is fine.
Oh yeah, that's why it comes with a nice tight fitting lid. Just keep it up there. We keep your flour and your baking powder and all that stuff. It comes in nice little jars. They're actually, the ones we get are a pretty decorative little jar that we use for them. So that's it.
Thank you.
The second one today, and you know what? I need to backstep. This is actually our calcium bath. We're going to be using calcium lactate, which is the calcium derived from dairy, a little later in the episode. This is actually calcium bath made with calcium chloride. I know I'm getting kind of screwy with all these different terms, but calcium chloride is an electrolyte. As a matter of fact, if you've ever heard of the brand of water, Smart Water, or any of the electrolyte enhanced waters, first ingredient's water, the second ingredient is always going to be calcium chloride. It's an electrolyte. It's nothing to be afraid of. But we use a calcium chloride in this recipe because it dissolves very, very well into just an open bath. You can see it looks just as plain as water, but it's been fortified with calcium. Okay, so what we want to do, and then lastly, move this one over. This is just clean, purified water. Again, just nothing in it, purified water. We don't want to use tap water because that has the high levels of calcium in it and it causes problems. So, as simple as this, let me show you this cool little device. We're going to use a squeeze bottle for today's episode, but the catering company, these are the type of devices we use. This is a little transfer case, and it drops 100 drops at a time. This will drop 1 drop at a time. This drops 100, so I can fill this up and literally just drop thousands and thousands of drops of whatever I'm making, whatever the caviar is, into the bath because we have to make huge batches of them to keep things going. So I'm going to put this aside, and without further ado, we're going to make this pretty simple. Just drop by drop, we're just going to drop this into the bath, and I don't know if this camera angle or that camera angle can pick them up, but we're going to try to, I use these clear bowls to see if you can actually see the reaction happening. But as you can see, let me show you, this is just a simple syrup, just a nice thin liquid, but when we drop it in the bath, I don't know if you can catch that or not, drop by drop. The second it hits, that gel forms.
Yeah.
And what's so cool about this is the outside is going to be a solid, but inside it's actually still going to be liquid, which is really, it's really very much like caviar, like a vegetarian caviar if you had to look at it that way. All right, so I dropped a bunch of those in there. We're going to let these cook for a second. We're going to build a little hors d'oeuvre. Actually, I'll leave that there. And this one, I'll slide there for right now.
So why do you leave them sitting in the water?
I'm sorry, say it again, please.
Why do you leave them sitting in the water?
They just need to process for a little bit.
Okay.
You don't leave them in too long because they're going to continue to cook to where the liquid would actually turn to a complete solid in this method. We want to give them a minute or so to make sure we get a good skin on them so that they don't break on you when you pick them out.
Okay.
So while we're leaving them in there, just some basic stuff, and you can do whichever toppings you want. I just have some stuff I had around the house. So got some little baguette toast points that I made, a little salt, pepper, olive oil, just bake them off till they're crunchy. And let's see what I want to work with today. I've got a little bit of brie cheese. So we'll take a little pat of brie. And as it was asked earlier, is it okay to eat the rind? The answer is absolutely. We were talking about this before we came on air. Yeah, it's actually good. Some people like the texture, like myself, the contrast. Other people pick it off, and that's just your preference, but it's not going to hurt you in any way, shape, or form. Okay, so I've got maybe a nice piece of Parma ham or prosciutto. We'll maybe bundle that up there on top of it. What else do we got here? Maybe a little rocket or a little arugula, as they call it. A couple of these leaves.
Chef, we
Yeah.
have a question from Brittany in the chat room.
Hey, Brittany.
She wanted to know if
What's up?
are there any rinds that you cannot eat in particular?
You know, I don't think so. There's some that are going to be unpleasant, and some of those really like hard, firm, ripe cheeses where the rind is really thick. They do take some cheeses and dip them in a wax, and you don't want to eat that. You want to get rid of that. But most of the time, if they've got a real ashy, that's just a bacteria that grows on them. A lot of salamis will have the same thing, that kind of white coating on them.
Oh, right.
It's fine, and I eat them. I'm a chef. I'm into that sort of stuff. Some people like to, brush it off or even slice it off if they're really bad about it. But for the most part, I've never come across, other than, like I said, some that are just so thick they're not going to be pleasing on the palate, and some of the cheeses they dip in wax. But most of the cheeses you're going to find nowadays in your gourmet section of your supermarket or whatever are going to be pretty good to eat any way you want them. Okay.
You'll know. I mean, it'll be a completely different color than the cheese itself. So, like a fontina is going to have a hard red kind of casing, and some of the Goudas will have that as well.
Oh,
Those you
okay.
want. A smoked Gouda that has the brown on the outside, that's actually from the smoking process, and that's absolutely flavorful. So one I would recommend.
Oh, okay.
All right, so we took real quickly and we trenched it out of the calcium bath. We just rinsed it off in the fresh water. And I don't know, let's see if we can get this camera to pick this up. Let me get a spoon here. You get these individual little caviars of fig, and we're just gonna ration these out of here. Put them right on top, like that. And we get the, might as well get the rest of them.
So while you're doing that, how long did it take for you to make the simple syrup, the fig syrup itself?
It was simple. I had to get a scale out. I had to measure 1,000 grams of purified water, and then 1,000 grams of fig jam, and then blend them up in the blender with the sodium alginate until it was fully incorporated. And then, like I said, I just want to put it in the refrigerator overnight to get that. So we'll set that one right there for you. I'll do one, maybe just one more really quick since we've got some time.
That looks amazing.
Isn't that cool? I mean, it's fig syrup. You could just take this without the sodium alginate and kind of squirt it on there, and it would be fine too. This is just kind of a modern way of doing it where it kind of gives a neat thing. I'll tell you what's really cool is using balsamic vinegar, and you get black pearls that really look like caviar, but they're pure balsamic vinegar. They're really tasty. You based on the balsamic you use, you might have to use a citrate product, which, not to get too advanced at this point, but if the acidity is too high, the reaction doesn't happen. So you can use citrate to lower the, is it raise the pH or lower the pH? Make it less acidic, however you say that,
Okay.
you know what I mean? And then you can get these little pearls of balsamic caviar that are just amazing for like a little
Wow.
charcuterie plate, or you could do them on a salad and do like a deconstructed vinaigrette with them or something like that. So,
Well, you know what I love about what you're doing, Chef, is
Yeah.
that, and I had the opportunity to enjoy one of these things this past weekend that he made, is that a reduction is wonderful when you're drizzling it, but you're also creating another texture.
correct. Yeah,
And
because
so
they're all
with-
liquid on the inside.
And it's going to
They
pop. Yeah.
Exactly, that's
So
exactly
talk about
right.
making your food pop. You really do an excellent job of that.
Yeah, that's right. We did an event Saturday night. It was a big success, I thought. Did you enjoy yourself then?
We all had a great
Yeah, it
time.
was a good time, wasn't it?
I guess I missed the invite.
I was working, but we still had
supported
fun working.
Hands On Greater Phoenix, which is a
Oh,
volunteer organization.
right.
And so it was our annual biggest fundraiser. So I was
there's
in
a
this kitchen
second
and
one.
Chef was in the other kitchen.
A little bit of caviar, a little tomato on that one, a little bit bigger. Okay, so that's the first one, the fig caviar. You see, it wasn't very hard. It honestly was 3 ingredients: fig jam, purified water, sodium alginate. You can go back to the archives and get the exact measurements. You can also just do a search in the internet. There's a million recipes for every kind of different types of fruit and these kind of caviars out there. And don't be afraid, because it really is that simple. Use purified water. Make sure you let it rest several hours. I like to leave it overnight. But that would be the first one. So what we're going to do now is move on. We're going to set these over here for the time being.
We have another question from Stuart from North Dakota.
Hey, Stuart.
So he was curious, is molecular gastronomy techniques, are they more just for show, or do they definitely add something to the flavor of the...
It's a great question. And as I said in the intro, it started off being done very well. I mean, Front Aldrich pioneered a lot of these. El Bulli for like 4 years in a row, and like 5 out of 6 years was voted the best restaurant in the world because of these techniques that nobody had seen before. And as Laura pointed out, you do get the opportunity to change flavors and textures. But unfortunately, when anything's this new, it got really gimmicky really fast. And all of a sudden, everybody was like, I'm a molecular gastronomist, and look at this stuff, and it didn't make any sense. And so people started to push away from it. And now it's going through its 2.0 phase, where we are using these techniques to add different flavors and different textures and different presentations, but still making it familiar enough that we're not doing stuff that's crazy out there. So I hope that answers your question. Like I was telling Laura when we were talking about it, you could just do a drizzle on here and you're going to get the same flavor. When we do it in the sense of this, it's just, wow, that's really neat. And you get to see it. It's something you kind of remember. And when you kind of demystify how simple these are, it's actually a pretty neat little technique. So I'm going to set those over there for the time being, and I'm going to actually move this. And I'm going to go to the refrigerator. Give me just 1 second over to the SubZero here.
We should probably address why we have this skeleton in the back too. He was here just helping us out earlier. We don't just randomly place skeletons in the back.
What's his name? Does he have a name?
Bones?
Oh, we named him Frankie.
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 Okay.
That's funny because my father-in-law's name is Frank, but everyone called him Bones. I swear to you.
That is funny.
That is interesting.
Okay, so we're going on to the next one. I'm going to show you guys a little thing with these pipettes. Now, pipettes, these are actually laboratory pipettes. You can buy like 500 of them for like $6 on the internet, okay? They're just these little, they're big, like little mini turkey basters. That's basically what they are. But chefs are using these now in really cool and unique ways too. They're actually figuring out, hey, that's pretty cool. We could do stuff with that. So what I'm going to do today, what I like to do within the catering company, what I'm going to show you today is I like to use these to be able to butler pass food, like hors d'oeuvres, that you can't normally butler pass at a party. So we're going to do a caprese salad today, but we're going to do it in a one little bite hors d'oeuvre. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with our ingredients. Obviously, we've got some nice either grape tomatoes or cherry tomatoes, based on what you want to call them, fresh basil, and I've got some fresh mozzarella here. So we got 3 of the components. What I want to do is just take a slice of this, okay, and we'll set this aside. And then we're going to trim it down so it's bite size. Maybe I can get, oh, I don't know, I'll trim it up so it looks nice. Maybe I'll get 2 out of that, and you can save these pieces for pizza or wherever else you want to use them for. So I'll set those 2 aside there. Let me wipe my knife off. All right. So what I've got here is balsamic vinaigrette. Now, there's a lot of really good ones on the store shelves. If you like to make balsamic, you know how to emulsify, either using mustard or xanthan gum or something like that, because it does have to stay emulsified. By all means, bust out your favorite recipe, but be warned, you need to strain it through a fine mesh strainer, because any of those little bits, little pieces of garlic or herb or whatever, that is such a small hole, it will clog and it will cause fits, okay? So what I've got here is a balsamic vinaigrette that I make, a little recipe that I have. It's garlic shallot, balsamic extra virgin olive oil, Dijon mustard, a little salt and pepper, and I buzz it up in a blender, and then I strain it, so it's just very clean. But you get the flavors: balsamic, olive oil, garlic shallot, all things that go great with a caprese salad, right? So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna pinch this as tight as we can get it, sit it in there, and just real gradually, there you go, fill it up, wipe it off here, and we just fill it up with the balsamic vinaigrette. Just that simple. We're gonna need, this keeps it clean. This is another little trick. This is sturdy enough that you could go through the tomato, but I found over my years, I like to use a toothpick or a skewer or something like that. So we'll take let me get a nice tomato here. That's a nice one. All right, so we're gonna poke a hole in the tomato, right? Not rocket science, we can do that. And we're gonna feed that pipette right through there, just like so. We're going to take a nice basil leaf. It's wonderful fresh basil. And let's see here. Pop that on there like that. Then we'll finish it with a little slice of cheese.
So while
Yeah,
you're putting that together, you said that you do these as a passed hors d'oeuvre for parties.
Correct.
So what's the largest number of these you've ever had to make it for one sitting? For one
800?
party? 800? How long did it take you to do that?
It took 3 of my chefs, my sous chefs. I didn't do them. A lot. These are actually, because it's 3 items, they are a little more time consuming. But I'm going to go into detail here in a second about other great things you can do. Let me get a couple more of these done real quick. So we're going to fill it up. I'll just show you again. I mean, obviously this is super simple if you have the pipettes. And these are, because I do get asked a lot, you know, what size these are. These are a 2.5 inch, 4 milliliter pipette. They do come in different sizes. Sometimes you can do really long ones and do them in drinks. Like that's kind of a big thing right now in the whole world of, you know, what they call mixology, or, you know, this modern bartending that goes with the flow too, is they're doing these, all right, put those right there for you. They're doing these flavor changing drinks, and they'll do a, oh, I don't know, whatever it may be, but they'll take a long pipette and fill it with one flavor of a drink, and it's usually like a stir straw inside of like a martini glass, and then when you're ready, you can squeeze the plunger and actually change the whole complex of the drink, which I thought was really cool. So they come in all different sizes. There's a lot of different things you can do for them. But there we go with these. Got a couple of really simple caprese salad pipettes, and we'll pass those on a tray. People love them. I wouldn't put, unless you're, you know, a little evil, I wouldn't just put them on a buffet and let your friends and guests figure them out. We found that out the hard way, that when we just put them out, you know, they'll grab them and squeeze them and shoot it up in the air. They'll point it, shoot it all over their dress, or they'll bite this end and shoot it across the room. It's really nice when you have a server pass you and say, this is what you do. You put it in your mouth, you squeeze the plunger, pull the food off, voila, you get a bite of caprese salad, and it's really nice and simple. Tell you another one I can do. Make a really good like horseradish cocktail sauce up, strain it really well, and then I'll do the cocktail sauce in there with nice poached shrimp on the end of it. Do like a bite of a shrimp cocktail. You want to use a smaller shrimp, tail off, of course, so it's just one clean bite. They don't have to mess with the tail. That's really good. I've done, I call it like modern day Jello shots, because we'll do certain types of alcohol in there. We'll do like a Cosmo Martini, and we'll stick a cherry on the end of it. We'll Butler pass those. Or I've done Bloody Marys. We do a nice Bloody Mary mix and strain it, fill them up, and then put a little piece of celery and a little olive on there. And there's just all sorts of, your creativity just takes it wherever you want it to go. And it's really kind of a neat little thing that you can open up. And like I said, I mean, 500 of these for $6, so it's not a huge investment you got to make for your next cocktail party.
So bottom line, you need a box of pipettes and some sous chefs.
If you want to do 800 of them, yes, that's correct.
And how long or how far ahead can you fill the pipettes?
It's an excellent question. I should have addressed that. Because these are actually laboratory pipettes, they don't leak. They don't drip. So you can do the actual plunger part probably 2 days in advance, as long as it's just something like this. Leave them in your refrigerator wrapped up, and you're good to go. And then you can skewer all this stuff later. If you wanted to do something like the shrimp cocktail, you could probably put the shrimp on there and just make sure you got the whole tray wrapped up. Day before, probably, they would be fine. I mean, you're going to have the shrimp in your fridge then. Have all this in the fridge. Why not build them the day before? It's one less thing you actually got to do.
True.
I wouldn't probably pierce the tomatoes the day before, because you're either going to get a little leak. Yeah, and then you get soft on you. You like that nice crisp bite of that tomato. So that's another hors d'oeuvre that we do here. And then let's see here. So I'm going to move some of this stuff out of the way here, and we're going to go to the third one. Now this third one is used in a lot of different ways. I need to get some supplies. Hold on just a second. Go over to the SubZero here. That's not the one I need. The one I need is over here.
Are those pipettes freezable?
In what regards?
Well, let's say I put something in there, a sauce that could be frozen.
Okay.
So could I fill them, and if I had too many, I could freeze what I didn't need so I could use them for a different time?
It's a good question. I don't know. Never tried it like that. I can tell you, you want to make sure it's strained really well, and you don't want any hot liquid, because the steam will force that liquid out. It won't keep them in there. I don't see why you couldn't. It's just plastic. Maybe it would get fragile if it was frozen and thawed. It's such a thin structured wall, but you got 500 of them. Give it a shot. See what happens. Put some water in them. But I wonder if it would expand and crack. Doesn't like liquids expand?
Well, it depends how full you fill it too, right?
Well, you're right. It had some room. Yeah.
Looks like you have some homework.
There you go. There you go, guys. Let me know. That's here, Foodies Live. Don't freeze them. Don't ever freeze them again. What was I thinking?
Or I have 500 frozen ones.
Yeah, I've got 500 frozen ones. I just need to have some friends to throw a party. Yeah.
There we go.
How funny. All right, bear with me just a second, guys. I got to get set up for this one.
So have you ever used, or do you recommend those home molecular gastronomy kits?
Yeah, the one from El Bulli called Texturas, that would be the one I would go with, just simply because he was the guy that created he and his brother are the guys that created all this stuff. So, but I'm sure there's other fine ones out there. You can get a batch of these powders, like you send a kit, and they're all sample sizes, and you get everything. I mean, I've done things with like soy lecithin. It's another thing where you make stabilized foams, which are really kind of cool, because you can do that and top things off with a foam that doesn't melt or dissipate even on top of like a hot fish. It stays there, but it's got a really intense fruit flavor. So that's another really nice one. Okay, so the last one we do today is a reverse or inverse spherification. This is using, as I said before, the calcium lactate, which we've actually taken mango juice here, and we fortified it with the calcium lactate. Remember, we used the calcium chloride over in the other bath, and we talked about this being derived from dairy, and that's what we put into the mango juice today. And then this is sodium alginate purified water. So we've used sodium alginate in there, but we're also using this. As you can see, the sodium alginate was in the flavored liquid on the first one, and we put it in into a calcium bath. This is the opposite. The flavorful liquid has the calcium, and the bath is sodium. And what this technique allows you to do is to make, they call them yolks, they call them spheres, a lot of different things, but really big ones. And as opposed to the caviar, if you tried to make big, it just doesn't work out right. This works really well for this technique. And this technique, I think, was invented at El Bulli in 2005. So this is what, 6-7 years old, maybe? 7 years old at the most. It's that new. But what you can do is a lot of great different things for it. Cocktails, it's great. You can do a little sphere. Let me make one instead of just sitting here talking. So what I've got is just a basic tablespoon measure, and we're going to fill it about halfway with this. You can see this is just a nice liquid mango juice. All right, we're just going to submerge this in the bath and pull it out. And you can probably see that. I don't know if the camera gets that or not. It sinks to the bottom. Let me rinse my...
Looks like an egg yolk.
Yeah, and that's why some people do call them yolks. Like I actually do a dish I call steak and eggs with this. We do like a seared ahi tuna steak, and we'll fan it out on the plate, and then we do like a coconut cream. We put on the plate, and we put one of these yolks on it, these mango yolks. You have a coconut coulis and a mango, but it looks like a fried egg on the plate. And then you've got the ahi steak with it. That's pretty neat too. Let me do one more here while we're playing. And this is another technique if you want to serve like a signature drink at your house. Like I said, a modern day type of Jello shot. You can serve these on spoons. Fortify this with a little, vodka and mango would be really good together, or whatever you want. You do get into the same problems if your acidity is too high, using things like grapefruit juice, orange juice sometimes will be too acidic. So you have to play with it. Definitely do it ahead of time. All right, so these have been in there for a few minutes. We're going to take this spoon here, and I'm going to bring this over here. This is my clean water. So real carefully.
So you said this had the calcium.
This has the calcium in it, the calcium lactate in it.
Okay.
And this has the sodium alginate in this bath.
Right. Okay. So, but the the sodium, I'm sorry, the calcium lactate
Correct.
is a dairy derivative.
Correct, yeah.
So it has lactose in it.
I don't know if it has lactose in it or not. It is from, it is from dairy. This one's got to cook a little bit more. That's a good question. I've never actually looked to see if it's a lactose product or not.
Because I know it doesn't necessarily have to be, but I'm just curious.
Right, sometimes things that are derived from dairy don't have lactose in it. So
right.
it's actually a really good question as well that I unfortunately don't have the answer to. Let me try this again.
And do you buy that when you buy your sodium alginate? Same place? Amazon or?
I do. I buy it from the same place, and this way you get the break and the shipping and everything like that. So, but these are fun. You can bang them out pretty quick.
So do you think Amazon will understand later when there's a rush for all these products?
Well, hopefully they're happy about it.
Offer the
Why did
Foodies
you sell
Live
so many
coupon?
pipettes today?
Foodies Live coupon on the Zon.
I think it's a necessity.
Zon.com.
How did you hear about us? Foodies Live.
Foodies Live.
20% off. Foodies Live.
All right, so we get this one right here.
In
That
the
one
gallery,
cracked.
Frankie in the background talking about Foodies Live.
Hey, Bones, keep it quiet back there.
That's what Arizona will do to you.
It's a dry heat.
We love it here in the desert, don't we? As long as we don't run out of water, we'll be okay. We've always got vodka.
Chef,
Yeah.
could you, with the caviar recipe that you did, could you elongate those and make more noodle type things with it?
You would want to use a product called methyl cellulose. I know it gets into another one of these molecular things, but Wiley Dufree from WD-50 in New York City, it's a restaurant in New York City, he actually does something like that, and I thought it was a really cool technique when I first heard about it. That one cracked. I'll set that aside.
The yolk cracked.
Yeah, sometimes if you know I'm cooking off, and I'm kind of trying to do this live for TV, so they should sit in there a couple of minutes. I'll make one more, then we'll talk about Wiley a little more. Anyhow, he does this thing where, and I'm trying to pay him proper credit, so I'm trying to remember as we go. He does this saffron like consomme broth, this bright yellow broth, and he uses methyl cellulose, which is a fiber, and it actually coagulates opposite of Jell-O. For example, Jell-O will coagulate when it's cold. You chill it, and you make Jell-O. Methyl cellulose coagulates and hardens when it's hot. So what he'll do, so what he got this idea for, I believe he did it with peas, like English peas, made a pea puree, fortified with methyl cellulose, and he had that hot consomme he put down, and his server would come by with like a syringe similar to this, filled with that warm pea, and he'd squirt it into the bowl and make one long constant noodle that you could actually break and eat in a bowl. He'd make them their table side. I saw the recipe on the internet. I thought, hey, that's a pretty innovative little thing. So I've never tried to squirt them in like that. I don't know if it would work or not, but I know they are doing things similar to that in New York and other places like that. So one of those things. All right, let me rinse this off. Try this one more time.
Seems like the slotted spoon is pretty essential to molecular techniques.
For this one it is. I mean, you can use a regular spoon, but you want to get the alginate bath out. That's why we rinse them in clean water. But at the same time, it's, you've got to be delicate or they crack on you. And I'm having a heck of a time trying to get these guys out of here without them breaking.
Good old live TV.
Hey, that's what it's all about, right?
So you did mention when you were using just the sodium alginate before that after just a minute or so you could start pulling out the caviar, okay? These you want to leave in longer so that they cook, if you will. Is there a certain time frame that you have to take them out by?
You know what, when we do these for a catering event, we've got big pans that we do them in. I would say 3 to 5 minutes, maybe the most.
Okay.
They're not gonna, these are, because these cook on the outside, they won't cook to the inside. But the skin will get a little bit thicker on them and kind of mess with them. But for the most part, yeah, for the most part, like I said, we'll do 50 in a pan, and then we're serving them as we're rinsing them. So I don't really know how long they're in there, but they're definitely in there for a few minutes for sure. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to do one at a time here. Trying to get, I think part of it is I'm making them a little on the big side too. Yeah.
This is very intense.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that one holds, but you can I can see the skin is very, very thin on this one. So it's probably not going to hold on a plate, but try it again. How much time we got left? We can keep doing these.
Keep it going.
Tell you what I'll do. I know what the problem is. I think I'm making them too big. I'm making them a little smaller.
So Chef, when you started to use and work with all these different techniques, how long did it take for you to feel comfortable with them so that you could plate them for your parties and train other people, etc.? Because I'm sure people watching want to know how long they should plan to practice.
Yeah, good question.
I have this bad habit of I'll sell a party with an idea I have before I've ever actually tried it.
Been
You
there.
probably have the same thing.
Yeah.
Then you got to go, well,
But it pushes
I got to
you-
figure this
pushes
out. I
your
just sold this to
envelope.
300 people.
It's a great thing to do, though. Keeps you sharp.
My girlfriend gets so mad at me. Why don't you try this stuff in advance? I'm like, that takes all the fun out of it. I like to scramble and panic at the last minute. You know, if it's in your home, relax and have fun. You know what I mean? I wouldn't get your product and do it for the first time the day of the event. You know, give yourself a week or two. You know, just hang out and do it. So, yeah, I mean, I probably worked with the stuff for 2 weeks, watched 100 YouTube videos on the different things until I got to the point where I said, okay, I'm going to go out and actually try to do these. And then you found out the techniques really aren't that hard. You just got to follow a certain systematic order. You know, they're a little different, but sometimes this happens. You know, I was making them on a little bit on the big side, or you know, this is a sharp edge, so they're not sitting in here very long, so the skin is very thin. I'm trying to get one done for the live TV segment rather than have everybody just stare at me for 5 minutes.
Well, while you're letting your yolks cook a little longer, here's a question. What would you say are absolutely the necessary tools of the trade to make this happen? You talked about the pipettes, you talked about the squeeze bottles, the sieve, slotted spoon,
Yep, fine mesh strainers.
purified or distilled water,
Correct.
and then, and the sodium alginate,
Alginate,
and the
calcium chloride, calcium lactate, the citrate if you need it, and you know things like tapioca maltodextrin. That's another one, and that sounds.
Again,
it's called
please?
tapioca maltodextrin.
Oh,
Again, it's a big
yeah.
fancy word. It's tapioca starch, a type of tapioca starch that turns high-fat liquids into powders. You can make chocolate powder, bacon powder. That's really cool, and that's super simple. That's you really can't screw that up. You know what I mean? It's a neat little product. And I thought about doing it today, but I was like, well, you know, we'll save that for another time. With these 3 things here, I had my plate pretty full, so we'll see what happens here.
Well, they talk about the kitchen being the best chemistry lab that you have, and the only one you have in your house, unless you don't clean your bathroom, in which case that's another story. But this really lets you take it to a different level.
Absolutely. Yeah, looks like it's just still bleeding on me. Well, anyhow, we'll let them cook. Have to come back for it, I guess.
Maybe they're cracking under the Arizona heat.
Yeah, no, they just need to sit a little longer. I mean, I can see them start to separate as I pull them up. I mean, they'll hold eventually. They look pretty unsightly if you keep pulling them out and dropping them back in. They start to tear, and then that heals up. And
So I know you can buy fruit purees. I mean, obviously anyone can peel the mango and puree it themselves, but do you recommend being able to use any of the ready-made fruit purees that are on the market if someone wanted to shortcut it a little bit?
Oh, good question.
oh yeah, this is actually mango juice. I didn't juice this myself. That was a purchased mango, 100% all natural mango juice. So we did get one to stick, but as you can see, it's it's really beat. I wouldn't serve that one because it kept taking it in and out of the bath. So I'm not letting it rest properly. This one looks a little better now that I gave it a little more time. Rinse that guy off. Put him down on the plate too. But this is actually something I'll do it like this. Or if this was fortified with your favorite vodka or what have you, you can put it on a spoon just like that, and then pass them around to your guests or put them in a cup and stuff like that, and then you can just it's actually a cool little technique. As you can see, it's a salad. I'll eat this one.
What kind of vodka did you put in that one?
No, there's no vodka in that one. I love mango, but as you can see, you crack it, and it's liquid on the inside, just like a yolk is. And the reaction on people's faces when you do them plated and they see it and they pierce it and it runs out, oh, that's really cool. And it's just, it's gimmicky, but it's, if you use it in the right way. I've seen a lot of chefs have done like fruit salads, like where they'll deconstruct it on a plate and they'll do like spear-fried like a yogurt on there. So you have like a yogurt parfait, but it's all deconstructed, and you pierce those, and the yogurt runs out onto the,
Wow.
the berries and stuff like that. So it's kind of a neat little way to do it when you're, when you're in a restaurant, you're paying top dollar. You want something that's going to be pretty impressive. So anyhow, those didn't work as well as I thought they would, but we got them done in the long run. It just take, like I said, when you're sitting there trying to cook on live TV, if they were in here 30 seconds, they probably should have been here at least 2 minutes. So we eventually got them done, but that's my demo for today. Any more questions you guys got?
Have you ever used that technique with a savory dish? Or
With
have you only
this
used,
technique?
Yes.
Well, I did that, like I said, the steak and eggs, the ahi tuna appetizer with
okay.
that, but you could do, anything with like yogurt, any dairy products. You could do some sort of cream, like a truffle cream or some sort of cream where you got you just want a little element. Because what's neat about these skins is they're heat resistant, so you can actually heat them, and you could do like maybe like some sort of herb cream, perfumed with herbs, and serve it on top of a filet mignon. So when they break it, it runs down over the steak and something like that. So because you can actually heat it with a torch or whatever, because it's not gonna dissolve from heat. So that's actually a pretty good thing there as well.
Well, here's a question going to the savory comment that Beth just made.
Uh-huh.
Could I have a tomato sauce, a marinara, for example, that I've made, and encapsulate that the way you're doing it, and then you know how we do the super large raviolis now? Just have one of those sitting on top of a ravioli. Would
That'd
that
be
work?
cute, wouldn't it?
Oh, wow.
Be nice.
Okay.
I think it'd be really nice. I think you would need to do some experiments to check the pH. Sometimes tomatoes can be acidic, and
Exactly.
certainly a lot of people fortify their recipes with vinegars or stuff like that. So look at it, but it should be turn out to the point where it'd be actually. I actually like that idea. Nice large ravioli with your encapsulated sauce, and it's kind of tiered, and they break the sauce and the ravioli, and it runs together.
You can name it after me. That's fine. But so, is there a certain pH?
Wheels are spinning now.
Is there a certain pH that you're going for in that bowl? Then and is there a way to test that pH?
Well, you can get pH strips. As far as
Right.
what the exact pH level is, I got no clue.
Okay.
I got no clue what it should be. I just know that certain things get too acidic, and if they do get acidic, you can add some citrate to it to help lower it. But citrate has a very kind of sour, it's that, the sour candy things. That's the citrate that gives them that sour taste. So if you use too much of it, it changes the recipe, and then you just kind of, in essence, kind of wasting your time doing it that way. But let's see if this one's gone long enough because I'm impatient. Get one for the final shot here.
Well, if you two ever team up, I want to be invited to that.
There we go.
Hey, I've learned an awful lot today. I really have enjoyed this.
Appreciate
So
that.
thank you, Chef.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Frankie appreciates it too.
Yeah, he needs to be fed though.
Yeah, he's not even skin and bones. He's just all bones. There we go. That's a pretty nice one. We'll set that one out there for the...
See, now you're not yoking around.
Yeah, now I'm not just dropping them and yanking them out. But you're right, the other one cooks a lot faster because it's so much smaller, But it's pretty cool. That'll stay like that
Wow.
for a while. Well, that's another thing before we go, is if I do make a bunch of these, if you just keep them, if they touch, they stick together. These won't. They stay separate, but because the cooking process is reversed, you've got to keep them separate. So if you do them and you have clean, purified water, finish them, you can put them in little ramekins and have like 20 of them. So you've got them all ready to go when your party shows up. So you can do them in advance because they're not going to cook in the center anymore. And you can keep holding them in the purified water and then get them out at the very end, and you're in pretty good shape. Good deal. Well, thank you very much. This has been a lot of
Excellent.
fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And you guys can check out Chef Dennis at Cater Phoenix. There's a link to him on our website, foodieslive.com. And hopefully you'll experiment with some of these techniques. And thank you so much to Chef Laura. You had some great questions.
Thank
so-
you. I was on the edge of my seat, literally. So this is awesome. Thanks for
Very
including
good.
me.
Well, thank you. And we're not sure about next week since it's July 4th week. Frankie's getting a little mad at us for working him to the bone.
Ta-da.
But check our website. We might be back next week. If not, for sure, July 10th. And thanks again for tuning in.
That's a little out of your league, don't you think?
The whole salmon.
You do have a backup plan, though, right? Like catering. Do they even like fish?
Make your meals, even the ambitious ones, come out just right.
You're actually enjoying this, aren't you?
The power, finesse, and ease of Wolf cooking instruments
Okay.
leave no room for doubt.
You've changed.